BJ Bernstein is with me here in the studio. She's a criminal defense attorney and a former prosecutor. I mean, you hear this in the courtroom often, but it is just awful to hear these stories over and over again. I'm the mother of 2 daughters. It is heart-rending, but at the same time, it's not just about her story and all of those girls. It's about an institutional complicity, and that is the biggest story here in many ways.
It is the story here now. I was thinking before I got here, I've been practicing law 30 years. At 3 years into my practice of law, so 27 years ago, I was on a child abuse prosecutor exclusively for a number of years. And we already had mandatory minimums. We had tough reporting laws. We had all these things in the criminal justice system to hold people accountable. What this is showing is the complicity of all the people at Michigan State, potentially, and there needs to be liability that they were covering up for the glory of an athletic system. We've heard it before in the United States, how we protect athletes at the expense of young women or young men, in the case of Penn State.
In a way, I think someone said at one of these things that they wanted more medals in protecting girls.
Exactly.
And this seems to have been repeated over and over again. However, when we come to complicity, I know that there's also a lot of people have been asking questions about where are the parents in all of this. But also, heart-achingly so, a lot of these mothers were in this examination room with their daughters, and he was such a studied pedophile that he managed to still perpetrate these acts even with the parents in the room. How, the institutions might argue, listen, we just had no idea.
Well, they did have ideas because they had some reports of it, and they clearly didn't follow up on it to the correct level and make sure that law enforcement got involved. They would make involvement looking at their liability.
Just to interrupt you, these are live pictures. This is Larry Nassar walking in. We're expecting to hear maybe the prosecutor making a statement. Maybe then we'll hear his sentencing. So just while we've got these pictures up, BJ, legally, what is he facing here? He's already...
Hundreds of years. I mean, there are so many victims. There's so much time. I mean, he is not going to see the light of day. Watching this now, this whole sentencing hearing has really been for these people, these young women, their parents or whoever, to share their stories and share their grief. And if you listen to this last one who just spoke, that you just showed, Rachel, she spent more time talking about Michigan State, which is what we're all talking about. She knows he's going to serve time. She knows he's not going to hurt anybody again. But the way to stop it is institutionally, and there are civil lawsuits that are pending, that it's not a matter, and if you think of everything else going on in the United States now, this awareness, Me Too, Time's Up, it is time to have accountability that when things are reported, you investigate it.
But at the same time, so they're the legal issues, and then they're going to be the civil issues that Michigan State or USA Gymnastics might have to face in terms of the justice system. But there's also, you've heard these girls talk about gymnastics, institutional gymnastics, and those who work within it being tone deaf. Nobody was in there in the courtroom from Michigan State University or from USA Gymnastics supporting these girls. And it also is interesting, another article's been written about where's the Olympic Committee in all of this? Where's the United States Olympic Committee? In many ways, they should also be slapping wrists, and they haven't stepped up to this.
And they're going to need to. I mean, and again, this is one of these sea change, hopefully it is a true sea change moment here, that across the board, that whatever sport it is, we have, particularly in the world of sport, this protection for the glory of sport as opposed to the participants in it. And yes, the Olympic Committee is going to have to look at it. The university is going to look at it. And then across the board, when there are complaints made, certainly sometimes they're false complaints, but they are investigated, not by someone who just is part of the team, but an expert who knows how to ask the questions, just like you do with law enforcement. It's just that simple. It's just no one chose it because it's about money.
When we talk about this man, Larry Nassar, he was also, as Rachel was saying, he was a monster, but at the same time, he was an expert at grooming. He became excellent at what he was doing, which was this breaking down of child's innocence and sexual assault. How many times have you seen this played over and over again, particularly with men in power?
it happens all the time. And, you know, when you're watching this on TV, like we watch this guy now, and honestly, we all, my personal, you look at him there, he looks creepy, he looks scary, he looks like he could be a pervert now that we know all this. You know, we read all that into it. But at the time, with what he did and the world of sport, he apparently did not seem that way. Or he was treating people...
Well, his results, apparently, in terms of how he helped gymnasts made him legendary, and he was so well regarded that it seems like the institutions made a choice to back him rather than the gymnasts.
Certainly.
So going forward now, this judge, let's talk about her. It's a sentencing hearing, so it's a different environment. There are different legal obligations on her. But she has been extraordinary. Listening to her has been a wonderful process. I mean, I've sometimes sat here in the newsroom listening to her, because after each victim impact statement, she encourages them. She's basically saying, you can do it. You don't let this define your life. It's kind of part psychology, part truth reconciliation commission.
Yes, and I will say this, it's a little difficult with the judge in some circumstances, because in general, judges usually step back because they are the decider of something, and it's going to be reviewed by a higher court.
Exactly, because she really has, she has dived into this, and she's used this court as a platform for these girls.
She has, and it's understandable when he's, you know, pled guilty. It's clear that guilt is an issue. And certainly making someone feel comfortable speaking in the courtroom is critical.
Here she is.
And here she comes in. Here she is.
Let's just listen and let's see what she says.
Counsel, we need